Hey, this is the Entertainment Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is a topic of how to write a story that people like, okay? So if you're someone who's taking up a skill like movies, TV shows, video games, any one of those particular skills, or even a mix of them, the main skill you have to learn fundamentally before you start producing that stuff, without a shadow of a doubt, is learning how to write a story, okay? So if you obviously want to take up those skills, as I was saying before, storytelling is the most important thing. And obviously, if you get recruited to do those particular skills, you have to be the very best at those particular at writing a story. Okay, so for this video, I'm going to explain to you how you can become good at storytelling. And now I mentioned that, let's get started. So the first point of how to become good at storytelling is simply learn to observe, which, even though it might seem a bit random, the truth of the matter is it's actually um an extremely important skill, okay? Because when you are becoming good at learning how to write stories, obviously, short stories would be the best way to get started, okay? And you're doing it a proper way, which is to actually post your short stories online so you can get an idea of what people like and not like. The best way to specifically figure out what people like and what people don't like, since obviously if you take up those skills like movies, TV shows, video games, stuff like that, any one of those skills or a mix of them, the truth of the matter is common sense is going to indicate that you have to, if you're producing something for a mass audience of people, you are going to have to, of course, learn, how to write a good story, okay? To be honest with you, because it gives you a vision of what you're gonna make for any of those particular skills, okay? That is the truth of the matter, okay? And if you're making something for a mass audience, produce for a mass audience, you need to get an idea of what they like and what they don't like, And when it comes to that specific point, the truth of the matter is when it comes to figuring out what they like and they don't like, even though it's a mix of things, the most important thing, without a shadow of a doubt, is figuring out what people are interested in, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, you could be the best storyteller ever, okay? Write a story that's completely flawless, no plot holes, well written script, whatever you can imagine, okay? But if the people are not interested in your story, okay, then your story's not going to do very well, okay? So you have to obviously figure out what people are most interested in, okay? And figuring out what most people are interested in, since obviously if you're making something, for any of those skills I mentioned, like movies, TV shows, video games, and so on, shit like that, you obviously need to, of course, no surprise, know what the majority of people are going to like. If you want your stuff to be popular, okay, you have to figure out what most people are going to like, okay, for that matter. Now, unless you want to have a very specific niche audience, the truth of the matter is, let's be honest, okay, most of us in this world who want to become successful want to be as successful as possible for any particular skill that they pick. So the truth of the matter is, no surprise, you have to figure out what the majority of people are going to like, and not just like, but like a lot, okay? So figuring out that, is definitely a skill, okay? And you have to be observant. And the best way to describe how to be observant specifically is you have to figure out what specific stories people tend to have the best reception for, okay? Whether the theme you're picking is sci-fi, um, another one could be obviously, you know, aside from that, of course, could be fantasy slash adventure, or it could be history, whatever for that matter, okay? The truth of the matter is, to put it bluntly, okay, to be quite blunt and honest with you, without a shadow of a doubt, the truth is, to be quite blunt and honest with you, you have to kind of catch on to what specifically, once you pick the theme you were picking, what type of storylines people might like, okay? Like if you just say, for example, you pick sci-fi, you might notice when you write certain particular types of short stories about certain particular things, like for example, you might notice people might like maybe when you write more stories that are about, let's just say, space exploration versus other sci-fi stories that might relate to things like dystopias or even just straight up apocalypses and all that type of stuff, you might notice that people tend to prefer it when you write a specific type of story, for the specific theme you're picking, and not even just writing a story about one of those things like you know like I mentioned, like this utopia, space exploration. If I didn't mention that, that was one of the things I wanted to mention. So yeah, space exploration or even an apocalypse, things like that. You have to also realize, you have to figure out like what specifically are you talking about for those things. If you talk about space exploration, another example, okay, what's the story about? Like, what exactly do you find people like the most? You might notice that when you write certain types of scenarios, people like it more than other ones. You might realize when you talk about the Galactic Federation, people don't really like it, but they like it more when you talk about maybe someone who's a silent assassin, you know, who goes around on missions sent by maybe by his planet or something, to kill other people, from other planets who of course are a threat to them. Like, you get the point, okay? Or at least you should hopefully get the point, okay? Like, you figure out, to sum it up, what types of stories, when you write a bunch of stories, okay, for a period of time, maybe every few months you write about like 30, 50 short stories, you kind of catch on what people like the most. And that's really what you have to do. You have to figure out what type of topic people are most interested in, okay? And that's a truth of the matter, okay? So that is the honest truth, okay? So to be quite blunt and honest with you, that is one of the main things you want to do if you want to become good at learning how to write a good story, okay? And the second point is, believe it or not, timing, okay? Now, even though this one might be something you don't hear much people talk about, it's undeniably very true, to put it bluntly. Um, for that matter, okay, to be quite blunt and honest with you, um, okay, which is down to the fact that you might write something, just like anything in life for that matter, okay, and but yeah, specifically in this case of storytelling, you might write something and you write about a particular topic, but like anything, people kind of get tired of it, okay? And people want to hear something different. Maybe you write a bunch of stories talking about, people who are secret agents sent by their planetary government to take out opponents and spy and yada, yada, yada. But you might notice over time, people are kind of getting bored and tired of that. So you want to switch to another topic based on whatever theme is your main focus, okay? You might notice, okay, people are getting tired of that, so maybe let's talk about something else. Maybe let's talk about space pirates. Maybe let's talk about another one could be maybe a planet that's trying to invade another planet. Whatever. You get the point. Like, you change up the topic over time, okay? Because the quicker you change up the topic, the more likely people are going to like it. And that's the truth, okay? So always change up the topic. And if you can do that, it will prevent you from losing um, steam when it comes to being likable for your short stories, okay, and prevent you from the audience turning on you, which is definitely not something you want to experience at all. And that is the truth, okay? So that's my second point. And the third and last point, without a shadow of a doubt, is you have to have a good story action balance, okay? Because even though you're writing a story and you're not actually animating an actual fight scene and stuff, let alone an animated story, okay? The truth of the matter is, you have to still at the same time be able to have a good story action balance, okay? Because even though you're not exactly animating the stuff, you're just writing a story, with some pictures at the most. The truth of the matter is, you obviously still want to, of course, no surprise to anybody, you want to understand that people still visualize things in their head. People still imagine things, okay? And some people can visualize, I guess, if anything, really good action scenes. Anyway, the point is that you want to have a good balance, okay? Because I notice um even the best movie makers, TV show makers, and so on and so forth, even the best movies of all time, just using movies as an example, you always tend to notice that a lot of times, even though, yes, it's a good movie, undeniably, you will notice that they sometimes maybe stretch out the story a bit too much, okay? They make the story last too long and have the action scenes happen too too long from when the story happens. It's like Lord of the Rings. There's like a good like 50 minutes to an hour before anything interesting happens in terms of like an action scene, okay? So you have to be wary of that, okay? Learn how to have a good balance because a lot of people don't do that, okay? And obviously, if you're writing stories, you're most likely you're going to go on to do those particular skills, like movies, TV shows, video games, and stuff. So you have to, specifically, of course, for movies and TV shows, you have to know how to have a good balance between story and action, which a lot of people do not do, okay? And that is the honest truth. So anyway, this is my video. I hope you learned something new. Just remember, if you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumbs the video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say, and simply put it, I'm out. So bye.